Okay, so thank you for coming to this 108th CPR CSH workshop. We have the pleasure today to welcome you at CSH. Normally, I remind you that we are located at CPR, so we have a slight change right now and for the next 3 sessions actually. So we are very pleased to welcome you for this reason, and as well because today Alexandre Sebeillac will present his research results that he performed during his PhD. Alexandre was a former PhD student at CSH and University of Rouen. You submitted your PhD 3 months back, right?
Exactly.
And so it was a good idea for you to come in India and to do these presentations. It is a kind of giving back all the work you performed during 3 years at CSH. So Alexandre, you have 45 minutes, more or less. Do not worry. We are actually quite used to for 1 hour, and we will take a round of questions after this presentation, so feel free as well to ask some question during the presentation. This presentation will be a bit technical. Alex is a kind of a geeky person, but it's very useful when it comes to study dengue and mobility pattern in cities. Alexandre, the audience is all yours.
Okay, so thank you very much. So today, as Olivier said, I will present you what I've done for the last 5 years for my PhD, and I spent 2.5 years in the CSH, and I'm very happy to be here to show you some results. I hope that from this presentation will be mostly or purely quantitative, so I hope that it will be fun for you. I will talk about the urban mobilities and the spread of dengue, and I will use mainly data from internet that are available online. Okay, so first I will start with the outline. So as a start, I will talk about the dengue, the complex system, the agent-based modeling, etc. So it's going to be a bit complex. I will talk. My cities are the study areas are Bangkok and Delhi. Then I will talk on the data collections and processing of this data. So I will use data from Twitter, a social network that provide individual mobility information. Also some data from Facebook. Then we have some aggregated location information and data from Google Maps. Then I will present you some results that we can have quite easily on Bangkok using Facebook, Twitter, and Google data, or on Delhi using Twitter and data from the field, like I made some field work with Shankar Gowda, a long time back actually. And then I will talk about how it's possible to turn this data into an agent-based model for urban mobility. So basically, some keyword that could be machine learning, big data, or artificial intelligence, but it's just for marketing purpose. I'm not here to sell anything. Also, it's a bit like you say overdone, like whatever. So basically, it's going to be a bit technical, and I hope you will understand. I will try to make it simple, but it's a bit for people that are not used to this kind of analysis. I hope it will be okay. So. First, I will start with the study context. So everything starts when Olivier got the INR AEDES, and he also had a FPSET European program that aimed to get a better understanding of dengue epidemics, and then to have a better, not to predict, but to have a better understanding and to manage it more properly. So dengue, it's a vector-borne virus. It's spread by Aedes mosquito. So there is Aedes aegypti or Aedes albopictus, as you can see here. These mosquitoes are mainly active during the daytime, especially during the morning or the evening. And they are very well adapted in urban area, especially in subtropical climates. But for instance, this picture was taken in Bordeaux in September. So basically, the dengue issue could also concern European countries. So there is millions of cases every year. Most of them are asymptomatic. That means that the person will have dengue, but he won't have any symptoms. So he can still live normally, actually. And there is no reliable vaccine. You can see like there is a huge fail with Sanofi in Philippines last 4 months, actually. So to understand the dengue, we have to understand the dengue system. Basically, there is at least 4 major entities: the mosquitoes, the host, the mosquito, which is the vector, the host, which is the human person, and the virus, and the environment. The interesting thing is that the virus is adapted to the mosquitoes and to the host. That means that if an infected mosquito bites a host, this person will have dengue. Okay? If this person moves in the city, if he's bitten by another by an healthy mosquito, this mosquito will have dengue. So that's how the dengue should spread around the city, because and we know that the mosquito won't spread on a long distances. So basically, the human mobility are very important. And also, everything interact with each other. Every factors interact with each other. For instance, the vector will need to have the environment, but the environment will shape the behaviors of the vector as well. So it's quite complex. There is no linear interaction. There is no trivial relationship, and it's very difficult to put it into mathematics. So basically, it's a complex system. So to study complex system, one of the best, use is to have some kind of informatic approach. So me, I've used an agent-based modeling. So the idea is to create like some kind of synthetic population that reflect the reality. It won't be exactly the reality, but it has to be statistically close to the reality. So each agent or entity will have some attributes, and every attribute every agent will interact with each other, and then we can see some phenomenon of emergence. So basically, this approach seems to be very adapted for a complex system, and especially for dengue. So in our studies, we have this dengue system, and there is for now one model will describe the behavior of the mosquito. One model will describe the environment, and me, I'm focused mainly on the host. Okay, so on the host mobility. So all of this combined will lead to a mega model or meta model, MO3. The idea basically is to create a virtual laboratory to study the propagation of epidemics in real cities. Okay? So what kind of concept, the concept I use for modeling human mobility is the activity space and time geography. This is made by, it starts from the 70s by Hagerstrand. And the idea is that every person will have a subset, will visit some location in the city. Okay? Let's say, for instance, here this is the x-axis, so you have the plan, the space. So this person will be at home, work, restaurant, and visit some relatives. The interesting thing with this concept is that you can make it time dependent. For instance, the person will be at home, let's say till 10, then he go to the office, then he go to lunch in the restaurant, and come back to the office. Then after that, he comes back home, but in the way, he goes to visit some relatives, like a theoretical framework. Also, what is interesting with this concept is that an activity can be fixed or flexible. For instance, in time and in space. For instance, when you are at home, this is only one location. When you are working, okay, most of the time it will be during the same time slot and at the same place. But some activities are more flexible in time and space. For instance, when you go to the restaurant, you don't go to the restaurant every day, unless for some people. But also, you will go to the restaurant at specific time slot, like during lunch or dinner. But you won't go to the same restaurant, so it won't be necessarily the same location. So these concepts allow to use this kind of framework. And basically, the idea for me it was to create for each agent, or like something like an artificial person, to have a specialized agenda or a daily schedule. That means like everybody during a day will have a set of time order activity that he will do in different locations. Then the idea is to mix this with a mosquito model that depends on the environment. So let's say this is a theoretical example. So for instance, according to the time and the location, you have more or less mosquitoes, and according to the kind of the places, etc., you will have a risk that will be high or low according to the time and the location. So that is the global objective for our study. Okay. So how to study urban mobility in megacities? So in our project, we have two cities, like New Delhi and Bangkok. New Delhi, you know, it's almost 25 million inhabitants, according to the UN, maybe more. This is like a polycentric city. Most of the population, there's a lot of the density of population is very high in Old Delhi or East Delhi, but relatively low in the south. in Bangkok, it's a bit different. The city is mostly monocentric. That means like all the population is mainly in the higher downtown. But still, every area are a bit different. There is there is 10 million inhabitants according to the census. Okay, so this is huge cities, mega city, we can say. The idea is to have the appropriate data to study the mobility in a quantitative way. So, me, what I want to have is this kind of stuff. So, I mean, like I want to have for every person to create an agenda like this. What kind of data we have? Okay, so basically, classically, or we can use in situ gathered data. I mean, like the census or the time use survey from Bangkok, etc. So the main problem was that these data were too aggregated. Like, I mean, spatially, for instance, for Delhi, it was we can have some information about the mean distance to the main activity, but it was just district-wise, and we don't have the standard deviation. So it's a bit tough to use this information to model, to adapt this for one person only. And then we can also have empirical data collection. So basically, you go on the field and you get data asking questions like, to the people to understand where they go, etc. So from this, we can have a good knowledge on a small sample, but it's very time-consuming, and also, like, if you want to have it difficult, scalable on cities like Delhi or Bangkok. So what's happened is that for the last, okay, let's say 10 years, more or less, you have new kind of data that are used in research, like you have the call details records from the mobile phone. So every time you use a phone, your phone will be connected to a cell tower, and every time you move, you connect to another cell tower. So it's possible to, it's easy to track you from a cell tower to another one. So you have a good time resolution because your mobile phone will connect like all the time to the cell tower, so you can see when people change the location. But the main problem is that it's rely on the density of the cell towers in the town. Like usually in the downtown, you will have some cell towers every 500 meters, but if you are in a remote area, it will be like 2 to 10 kilometers. So it's difficult to get. You need to have some partnership with telecom company. And since, like, let's say 2011, 2012, more and more studies used the data from social networks, let's say Twitter or Facebook, mainly Twitter, actually. So I will develop this later, but the interesting thing with that is like they are easy to access. You can use an API. But the main limit is that there is no information on the back. Don't know who is tweeting or who is using Facebook. I mean, as a researcher, I think Facebook or Twitter, of course, they know you very well. So how can we collect this kind of data? So basically, it's mostly always the same. To have online data, you need to go through an API, which is an application program interface. Basically, it's some connection protocol that allow you to access the database. So imagine like one person is there. He can send some queries to access the database, and then you will have some response. So basically, usually you need a token. You have a limited number of free queries. Most of the time you have to pay, actually. And you get the data of the database at the instant time t. So here, so I managed to download some data from Twitter, as I said, some Google Place, data from Facebook as well, and I will develop this later. So let's start with Facebook check-in. So I guess everybody knows what is Facebook. With more than 2 billion users. One interesting thing is that when you use Facebook, okay, so on the user side, okay, when you want to post a comment, you can add some location information. Say, okay, oh, I'm with my friend, talk, and then you can add a place in the database. So for instance, let's say at Bangkok, I'm in Bangkok. What's happened to the location side? Then you will have a number of visitors that will increment. Okay, so if you use an API, what you can do is that you can access all this data. So here it's an example of INSA University. You can see here. They have at this time, the time of the query, they have this number of check-ins, this number of fans, donc this is like, and you have the location, etc., and you have also the category. So there is still some limit. Okay, sorry. So the main problem is that you don't need to be in the place to do a check-in. That means everybody can do a check-in without being there. You can also add your friends as well. So you need to make some filters for this. I won't talk about this, but you can't use this data like this. Also, if a message is deleted, all the check-ins of this place are deleted. So basically, what I've done is like I've made an algorithm that collects all the check-in information of all the location in Delhi and Bangkok every hours actually. So what do we have is that for, let's say, 100 days in Bangkok, we have more than 40 million check-in in more than 120 places. So this is aggregated data, but I have this hourly actually. So what we can see is that most of the check-in happen in downtown, which is normal because there is a lot of touristic area, etc. And you also can see here there is the airport as well. So we need to have some filter to remove the touristic places, etc. According to the study you want to do. And from this, as we also have the information on the category, so we can say, for instance, the average number of check-in per hours. For instance, you have, okay, this is 4 different category of places. So you have the bar, school, etc. So, but what it shows is quite obvious. Like bar will be more frequented during the Friday and Saturday night. School will be more frequented during the morning of the weekdays. But the main interesting thing is that we can quantify this, so which is quite interesting, and for each places. Okay, so I will develop this later. I think.
Yeah, because it's unclear to me what kind of views you would do of that.
But maybe you can wait a little bit, actually.
Sorry?
Maybe you can just wait a little bit. Yeah, because we make a stop at the mid to have a small discussion if you want to do. Because okay, so for now basically we have all the attraction of the cities, which is quite. Okay. Well, right now we'll focus on individual data from Twitter. So Twitter is a social network that allows users to send some messages. Like there is almost around 200 million active users every month that sends hundreds of millions of messages every day. Okay, some of these messages can be geolocated. That means like a person will add in his messages, okay, I'm there only, etc. And it will be I will just take the precise location of his mobile phone. So 3% of the tweets are geolocated, and we can use an API, that's the same way to access the database. We can have 1% of the global flow, but as I focus only on Bangkok and Twitter, I'm downloading all the tweets geolocated in Twitter and Bangkok. So what do we have? During June 2014 and December 2015, in Bangkok, I downloaded more than 30 million tweets for almost 300,000 users. For Delhi, it's a bit less, only 3 million of tweets for 63,000 users. But among all these users, some of them are not human. They can be just bots, which be like automatic program that will send some messages, or community manager, or advertisement company. For instance, you have Indian properties that will send some geolocated tweets for every house that is available. So you also have some tourists. I won't talk of them today, but they are a bit important for the spread of dengue as well. But people that won't tweet that much, so it's not interesting to keep for now in the analysis. So I did some filter that but just remove this kind of user based on the activity and also on the speed between two messages. Like if the speed between two consecutive messages is too high, then I remove them. So what do we have right now? So for this study, I kept only 17 million of tweets for almost 76,000 users in Bangkok, and only 1 million of tweets in Delhi for 6,000 users, which is a bit low. So right now, we have to check of the representativeness of Twitter users. So we don't have any information on who tweets actually. But according to the literature, you can say that it's mostly young people, like people from 15 to 25 years old. They are overrepresented among the demographic. But these studies were made in UK, so but we assume that it's probably the same case for Bangkok or Delhi. Then the other question is, who has dengue? So if you look in Bangkok, for instance, in 2013, on the right, you can see that most of the people that had dengue were young guys young persons from 10 to 25 years old. So what the interesting thing is that the Twitter data, we target the population of people that are more susceptible to have dengue. Okay. So with this, if we come back to the mobility, to the urban modeling concept, the idea is to, okay, how can we create an activity space from this kind of data? Basically, it's quite simple. So, it's quite simple, but okay, it's not working. So, okay, so basically, okay. So basically, people will send some messages in different places in the city. So let's say a lot of tweets there, some tweet here, some tweet here, some tweet here. The first step is to merge all the tweets in a location, and then we will define, okay, the first step is to merge some tweets according to their proximity. So let's say we have 20 tweets sent in very close by. Okay, we say this is one place. Then we can do that for all the places, and it's easy to detect the home of the users, which is the place where people will tweet a lot during the night and for a long period. So basically, from that we can have the home location. Okay, it's working. What's happened with this? So as we know where people were supposed to stay, we can compare it with the census data to see if it's representative or not spatially. So if you look at Delhi, so Delhi there is almost 25 million inhabitants, and we were able to detect the home of only 4,000 Twitter users. So if you look on the map on the left, okay, I'm sorry, there is some issue with the Microsoft. Okay, so if you look at the map on the left, the color scale represents the density of population. When it's blue, it's very low. When it's red, it's quite high. The ISO line represents the density of Twitter home of the Twitter users, the home location. So what we can see is that it's mostly in the south. Like in the east, there is a lot of people that live, but there is not that much people that use Twitter. Okay? So this is definitely not representative. If you look on this small graph here, you have the population per word on the x-axis, and in the y-axis, this is the number of users of Twitter that stay in the same word. So there is no link at all. If you look at the social representativeness, okay, one proxy is to use the property tax. So these data were provided by Olivier and Bertrand Lefebvre. And the property tax is that, okay, in every colony, people will pay some taxes according to the quality of the neighborhood or of the house, etc. If there are a lot of services, the property tax will be high, so close to A. If there is less services, or if it's a rural area or villages, it will be like G. What we can see there is that the Twitter user it's in red, and we can see that it's overestimated. Most of the Twitter users stay mainly in colony in category A to C, much more than the total population. And if you look at and most of a few people stay in a lower class, if we can say that. But if you have a look,
sorry, lower class was on the right side.
Yeah. Basically, the closer it's to A, the higher is the value of the colony. To sum up, like. Okay, interesting. So
you measure that by the property tax? I'm not sure.
it's a okay. We can discuss. Give me just.
No, just to understand.
Basically, this is just the property tax is what people okay. So maybe I just. You want to discuss it right now? We can discuss in 5 minutes.
Take
If
30 seconds
Okay.
maybe.
So basically, okay.
How do you measure that, and why is this measuring what you...
No, basically just a proxy. Like property tax is what people will pay every month. So basically, I just wanted to say, okay, what is the social background of people that use Twitter? So if you compare to daily population, they are overrepresented in area where the tax is more important.
high.
So basically, it's so if we look at the spatial representativeness in Bangkok, here we have 10,000 million inhabitants, and we managed to detect the home of almost 36,000 users for 7 million of tweets. So here we have the same kind of map. So the blue is low population and low density, and the red it's high density. But you can see there is like the match between the location of Twitter user and the location of high density areas are properly matching. Like let's say we have an R-square of 0.81. So if you have the same stuff, here this is the population per sub-district, according to the census, and then this is the number of people with Twitter that stay in the same area. So basically, it's spatially representative, but we don't have any information about the social background of these persons. Okay. From this, okay, knowing the location of home location of everybody, knowing all the different places that are visited in the city, it's possible to do some interaction to spatialize the interaction between each sub-district. Let's say, for instance, people that stay here, they are likely to go there, etc., because it's according to the data we have. So we can see that there is a huge tropism in the center of the city, but not only. You can see that there is some kind of interaction between all the states. This is interesting, for instance, if you are doing like urban studies, or also if you are working on epidemiology, but with mathematical modeling, like based on differential equations. But also, okay, so we have the data from Facebook, the data from Twitter, so we can also compare the urban pulse according to this data set. So here, this is for a typical Tuesday for different time slots. So on the top, you have the density of Facebook check-in in Bangkok, and here you have the density of Twitter people in Bangkok as well. So what we can see is that, okay, we have different kind of data, but it's not the same result as well. For instance, for Twitter, during the night, the people will be located like in a homogeneous way in the city, like mostly everywhere. But during the daytime, lot of tweets will be recorded in the central area. It's a bit different for Facebook, because Facebook, we don't have any information about the home location, just about the check-in. So maybe this could be badly accurate during nighttime, but during the day, it could give some idea. So maybe the urban pulsation could be something in between Twitter and Facebook, but it's difficult to say actually. So right now we can go on by defining the activity space of Twitter users. So we have this kind of information. So we have defined all the different locations a person will visit. People, we have sent different tweets at different time in different places. So we have firstly defined the home. We can do the same. We can define the main activity of this person by assuming that this person will send a lot of tweets during a long period, but mainly during daytime. So for Bangkok, we have managed to have this information for 17,000 users, and for Delhi, less than 1 million users. But one main question is, okay, what are the activity in other locations? Like, we don't have any information about this. So my main assumption was, okay, let's use a land use layer, assuming that you send a tweet in a mall, for instance, but you might be visiting a mall. You're sending a tweet on the street, but you might be like I don't know, like on a way to some different place. So to do so, the idea is to use some land use layer. So there is different kind of sources available. So you have OpenStreetMap, but at this time the data were not quite accurate. So I choose to work with Google, like with the point of interest and the area of interest. So how Google POEs and AOE works. Basically, the POE is the point of interest. So everything that you will display on Google, like let's say, for instance, a shop, a mandir, or whatever, the CSH, will be a dot which will be located in the database. It's quite easy to access. It used to be easy, but right now it's a bit more complicated. You just need to use the nearby search from the API available. So basically, you just copy-paste this. You just change the bold character with what you want, and you put it in your browser. You just add a token, etc. So basically, with this, I downloaded a lot of POEs, like almost 100,000 in Bangkok, and you can have the density of all different kind of services. Let's say the school, university, etc. Another source of information could be the area of interest. So if you look at Google Maps, you will have some area in pink or something like that. This is like the area of interest according to Google. So this is basically the market, the shop, the bar, etc. So what I've done is that I have extracted all this data, and as I have all the POE, I can like may do some retro engineering and understand how it's done. So I can create my own IOEs, plus I can do a typology of this, because I know what if there is more shop or more bar or more or it's a mixed area according to the POE. So basically, it's a bit more accurate, because with this I can do some kind of land use layers. So what you can see in blue, from light blue to dark blue, will be some shopping area. The darker is the color, the higher the density of shop is. In red, it will be mostly on-God places. So you see you have Sukhumvit, you have Silom, etc., which is places where there's much more restaurant than shop, but still there is some shops. And from light green to dark green, it will be like mixed areas. So there is a lot of shop and a lot of bar. Basically, it will be a lot of malls and also the Chinese quarters. Then I have added some other areas that are relevant to dengue, for instance, the university, the school, the parks, etc., and the religion, because this is some kind of places where people are likely to get dengue. Okay. And then from this, as I have the digital footprint of this person, I just need to merge the two information, and then I can create an activity space. So let's say, for instance, let's say then this person will have a home, with restaurant, his main activity, and some place that we don't know. Could be visiting relative or could be whatever else. That is created. So basically what we have is on the space you have the location plus the activities probably done in this location, and in the time we have the time slot and the visit frequency. Because the main problem also, these data are episodic. That means when people tweet, it won't be continuous in time. So we just have a frequency, we can't have continuous data. So one of the main deal will be now to arrive to spatialize and time order this agenda. I will talk about this later. But for now, what we can do is that knowing all the activities done and in which places and at what time, we can aggregate all the activity spaces of everybody. This will give us the temporal and spatial attendance of activities in the city, and then we can compare this with Facebook. Okay. So, for instance. The histogram will be the data from Twitter, and the plain line will be the attendance according to Facebook. So what we can see is that, it's merely the same, but there is still some differences. For instance, the park, there is a peak with Twitter on Friday evening and also on Saturday. This peak is not really there with Facebook data. But the school, the peak is much more important with Twitter than with Facebook. So I will do a short synthesis on data, on online data and for mobility. Then maybe we can have a small talk. So basically, we have a huge volume of data. We have a lot of information. Okay, but the main thing is that we have different results according to the sources. So the truth might be in between, but we don't know. There is some bias in the data. Let's say for Facebook, for instance, people can do some check-in even if they are not in their places. For Twitter, we don't have the whole information of the place people have visited. So it leads to some question like, does the virtual activity space, so all the digital footprint you will let online, or they are close to your real activity space? There is some social question beyond this, like what is the intention behind a tweet or a check-in? Then because you will have obviously some issue with social and spatial desirability. So this is the first problem. Like we have a lot of, even if there is a huge amount of data, there is still a lot of questions. Okay, and there is also some privacy and sovereignty issues, like because the user, they depend on tech companies that they have all the information of them. The researcher also depend on tech company, but we just have a sample of their data. Also, the company can change their term of use. For instance, Google, like in June, everything turned to be very expensive. It used to be mostly free, but right now it's very expensive. Facebook, after the Cambridge Analytica analysis, I have to rebuild all my algorithm because they changed the term of use. And also Twitter, for instance, before May 2015, when you activated the geolocation on your tweet, all the next tweets were by default geolocated. Okay, so it's a lot of data. But after May, they changed this. So we have less data. So it's basically it's very good for the user, but a bit less interesting for the researchers. Also, there is, if you do some field work, etc., you have a level. There is not the same level of hierarchy between the researcher and the person that you use the data. Here you have some consent issue, like okay, we are using this data, so it's a bit borderline. But we can discuss this if you want. I mean, right now. So if you have any questions for now for on this part, no? Yeah.
I'm wondering if you did a correlation with literacy as well, or did you have a
With the what?
literacy levels
Yeah.
of a region and social media usage? Did you
No.
go on that? Okay.
No. Basically, it's mean that for instance, Twitter, the use of Twitter in Bangkok or in Delhi is not the same. Technically, I know nobody in Delhi that use Twitter, and it's assuming that people need to speak English. The study was made like the data were collected in 2015. So at this time, there is some smartphone, but not as today. And to use Twitter, you need to have a network that use Twitter as well. So I think it's that's why maybe it's not working in Delhi, but I guess you might have a link with literacy. People that literate, I don't know if they can use a smartphone. Maybe they can, but maybe they won't share like messages. No, it's fine. Okay. So I'll go on. So right now we'll talk a little bit of a fieldwork I've done with Gouda, because as I said that in Delhi Twitter was not that much used, so we need to get some other sources of data, and why not trying to have data from the field. Okay. So what we've done, it was fieldwork in Malvinagar neighborhood. So here you have a map of the property tax, if you want it. So what you can see is that when it's red, it's supposed to be the richer areas. When it's like blue or teal, it's like rural area, etc. So I've done my fieldwork in Malvinagar. Okay, it's in the south. It's supposed to be the richest neighborhood. But if you look closely, you have all the different kind of property taxes close by. You also have most of the different kind of colonies. You have villages. You have you have planned colony, unplanned colony. You have a rich area there in Panchila Park. Okay. Also, the interesting stuff for mobility studies is that this area is quite well connected. You have the Oscars metro station. Right now there is one new there actually. You also have a metro station there. So it's quite connected. You also have the ring road upstairs. So basically the idea, technically, you also have the main market, the mall, etc. So basically people can do everything in Malvinagar, but they also can leave Malvinagar easily. Okay, except that there is a lot of traffic jam. That's the main problem. But basically, the idea was okay to have this place. Also, it was close to the CSH. So this area is almost 40,000 inhabitants. So we have done a pilot study with Shankar Gouda. So here you have some images of Begampur village, near of Malvinagar, planned colony. So this fieldwork has two objectives, maybe a bit more, but two main objectives. The first was to study the mobility potential according to the age, socioeconomic status, etc. Because it's obvious that people won't move. It's obvious. It seems to be obvious that people won't move the same way according to different status. Like for instance, women, maybe they have a proper. They won't move. You can't see as much women in the street that you can see men. So, as a foreigner, I have this. You can see that. So we have interviewed like 99%, like mostly male, because it was a bit complicated to interview a woman. And with this kind of data, the idea was also to try to have a data collection that is useful for modeling. So it has to be fast to have a large sample, and the data has to be compatible with Twitter. I mean, the format of the data has to be compatible. For instance.
How did you choose this 99? What was the criterion for choosing these individuals?
Okay, so basically the idea was to interview not the representative sample, but the most diverse person belonging to the most of the age groups, a lot of socio-economic status, like from the richer to the poorer, etc. And 99, it was just because it was after 1.5 months, it was very hot, and okay, it's fine. Like,
What's the criterion for the most diverse?
the what?
You say the most diverse. What is your criterion for defining this nationality of diversity?
There is not actually. Basically, it's just a pilot study. The idea was okay.
You
Let's.
just pick up 99%.
Yeah, we could have done more, but basically it was just a pilot study to see, okay, first to try the data collection and also to have the first inset of first view of how people move, like according to this to the gender, etc., to the age, the home location, etc.
So it was not a random sample. It was
No, it was not a random sample. Just basically the idea was just to.
You interview people like this,
Ah, ouais, oui,
wanting kind of social representativeness that you
you
couldn't
didn't
test
get
on
it because obviously you have 20 female and 30 young. So
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
not.
No, but I mean, yeah,
It's
of
random.
course.
Random is a way.
It's a good
Sample as well, sample technique as well, as you know.
So you took a real, so you took the list and you draw randomly 99 names.
No, absolutely not. No, basically we were just walking in the streets and asking questions to people, etc. When they were available, and where do they go? So just a pilot study. And basically, the idea is just to understand the protocol of data collection. We'll see that just in the next slide. Because what we have from Twitter, we have this kind of information. We have the place location, the activity, and time slot, and visit frequency. So what we have done on the field, we asked from people we have interviewed, what kind of activity they do in different locations, at what time do they visit, at what time of the day. So for instance, from one person, we have the different places, the activity done. For instance, this person stay at home in the place E every day all the week, and mostly the morning and night. He will visit two kind of markets in place C or D, and one he will visit one in the morning 2 times a week, and one in the evening like 2 times a month, something like that. But the interesting thing that we have the age, the gender, and the income. We don't have this information for Twitter. And the idea is to, after that, to recreate an activity space using the same method that we've done for Twitter. So what we have is it's the same data structure. So basically, it's possible to use the same kind of data in the same model. Also, because for instance, if we have in some places, not only in Delhi, but maybe in in Bangkok or something like that, if we have some areas with less information, we can do a small sample there, maybe right now more statistically representative of the population, and ask them this kind of question, which is quite easy to get. And after that, we have the same structure, so we can use in the same model. So first, what I wanted to just have a look was the mobility potential. So basically, we had some question to the people, what is your family income? What is the income of the household? But it was a bit strange because there was some kind of issue, like sometimes it was very low, sometimes it was very high. So basically, as we ask also some information about if they have some AC, car, motorbike, etc., I've defined a small level of resources according to the possession. So for instance, if people have some AC and a car, we consider them to have high resources. If people have nothing, then they are very low resources. Then we can just have a look on the property tax, according to the place of to the location of their home. What is the share of people that are supposed to be rich than in every colony? So what we can see is that most of the rich people stay in the category C, which is Malvinagar, but not only, some people stay in Osrani, etc., and are quite rich as well. So it was just another way to just to have a look of if the property tax was a good proxy. So it's not a perfect proxy, but it could be useful actually. But it's same, only 100%. So with this, we define a resource level. So right now we can define some kind of mobility criterion. So so for this, I've used the number of visited locations. So the more people visit location, the more they are mobile, the more they do activities as well. So for instance, people can visit a lot of locations, but it will be to do the same thing, like to do the market, for instance. And there is also the radius of gyration, which is a spatial dispersion parameter. Basically, it's something like the average distance to the center of gravity of the activity space. So from all these three criterions, I used an unsupervised classified algorithm, which is right now called like machine learning, but this is used for decades. Like basically, the idea is to group people that have the same kind of criteria. Like people with a lot of activities will be together. So, okay, so here's some problem. Okay. So basically, we have 3 clusters of people. The cluster number 1 will describe people that visit a lot of different locations, but it's not very, how do you say that? It's not very clear because some people visit a lot of few locations and some people visit a lot of locations. The main interesting thing is the radius of duration. That means people will tend to move a lot in the city. Okay. And on the other side, we have the group number 3. We see people will visit a lot of locations, doing a lot of activities, and they will spread normally in the city. So if we combine this with the data we have, okay, so here this is the first cluster, which is the people that have the highest radius of duration. Who is concerned? So basically, this is mostly people from the richest area, people that stay in the, people that are quite poor, they don't move that much. And okay, so there is, if we compare if we look at the gender, women are not concerned. Like there are very less women according to this. Less women belong to this group according to the world group, but there is also only 20 women. Okay. If we look at the group number 3, which people that move a lot, etc., same, there are people from the richer people belong to this group, and it can be else women or male. So basically, just a small study, and this is not representative at all, but it gives some ideas that according to the place you stay, to your resources, to your gender, you will have different mobility pattern, at least in Delhi. This has to be investigated more, but this is what we show. We can do the same kind of analysis with Twitter data. So here I will just show the home location according to the property tax. Okay. This is different groups. So, for instance, you have the group number 1, this one downstairs. The interesting thing is that people there have a lot of visit a lot of locations and do a lot of activities, but they don't move that much actually. So, if you look at this is mostly people from that stay in the richer area or in the in the poor area. So it's difficult to have a proper conclusion on this. If we look at the class number 4. It's the people that have a higher dispersion in the city. And what we can say is that people that stay, according to Twitter, mainly in poor area. So there is some kind of differences between what I've found from the field. But still, Twitter data is not very representative in Delhi. And it's according to what people post on Twitter. Okay. But if we do the same with Bangkok, so here I have taken, there is 5 classes there, but I've just shown you 2 of them. So you have the group number 1, which is there. It will be the people that will tend to have the mean trip, that's in the mean distance between 2 locations, which is quite high compared to the others, and a high radius of duration as well, so they will move a lot in the city. What you can say is that most of them, so this group is almost 20% of the subset of the data, of the person, sorry. And most of them stay on the peripheral areas. If you look at the group number 2, which is 30% of the person of the samples, they don't move that much, like not on long distances, but they will visit a lot of places and they will do a lot of activities. And these people stay mainly in the downtown. So this is interesting to take this into account if you want to do some modeling. Okay. Because according to the place people stay, they won't have a different mobility pattern. So right now, I will show how to go from this kind of data to make a agent-based model for urban mobility. So what we have in inputs, we have this, so main activity, restaurant, home, etc., the activity space of one person, which can be collected from Twitter or from the field. Okay. So the idea is to have this, to obtain a synthetic activity space. How to do so? So we do a framework. We have 2 steps. The first one will be to go from episodic data to continuous activity space. So basically, we will use an algorithm to obtain a time order activity list. So basically, each people from the sample, the idea is to reconstruct their agenda to make it linear. Okay, because for now we just have the frequency. We don't have like the he's at home, then where it goes. So we need to make I need to develop a first algorithm. Then from this data, we can so we have continuous activity space. The idea is to use all the information we have from this data to generate synthetic activity space for a larger population. So for instance, in the sample in Bangkok, we have information on 17,000 persons. The idea is to make to use it for at least 2 million persons. Okay, so how does it work? The first step, okay, we have this for one person. Let's say this person visits 3 different kind of places. So you visit this at some times of the day, at some different days. This one is visited like only on Tuesday and at this time, etc. And plus we have a week frequency. So this is episodic data, and the idea is to find a framework to make it linear. So for instance, this person, okay, according to the algorithm, can generate some linear agenda. So the blue will be the home location, the red will be, okay, should be the main activities, and the idea is to add some flexible activities. As I said before, for instance, this one which is visited like not that often, and the green one could be, okay, let's say a park visited some days. Okay. So according to this information, the idea is to make something linear. From this, we can have we can generate all this agenda, so we'll try to explain a little bit. So here you have 25 persons from the samples, and here you have all the different activities done during the days. So here you have Monday, Tuesday, etc. The blank line is the midnight, and then here it's noon. So basically, we can have this for all kind of activities done by everybody in our samples. Okay. So with this, we can extract some information, like at what time people go, etc. What people do after going home, etc. I will develop this later. So if we can, for Twitter, for instance, we can also take into account every group. Where we can take also into account the group of people. So let's say people, we have 20% of chance to belong to this group, or 31% to belong to another group. So according to this, people belong to a group. Okay, we draw a number of locations and a set of activities according to the group. Let's say if people belong to the group, like we have a lot of activities, we will draw some location plus activities. From this, we will define a number of weeks visited in a month, a number of days per week, like how many days people will visit this location, how many days you will visit this location as well. From this, okay, let's say this person visits religion places. You will be more likely to visit it on Saturday or Sunday, according to the data. Okay. And from this, we can also pick up a duration. Let's say like a random duration, let's say 2 hours or 3 hours, according to the kind of activity which is made, which is irritated from the previous agendas. Okay. So right now, what we have, let's say we have an example. Okay, one person, we have 4 activities that you have to do in one day, in 4 different locations. Well, the first thing is that, okay, we'll pick up a departure time according to the data we have reconstructed before. So people will be likely to leave home by 9. Then you have to go to 4 different activities. So you can go to the office, to the park, to the shop, or to the on-God places, for instance. Let's say if she goes to the work, it is a fixed activity. So we will just draw a time of arrival according to the agenda we have made before. But for all the other activities, okay, it's a bit tough. Like how can we say where if these people have to go to the park, etc. So there is different way to figure out this. So we can use first the time-dependent transition matrix. Okay, it looks a bit complicated, but in fact it's not. Let's say you are at home in blue there. According to the time and to the agenda, okay, people that are at home, 45% of them, when they go to the next activity at a definite time, at a proper time, they will go to the main activity. Okay, 18% of them will go to the park, and so on. For instance, if you are in the cinema, when the activity cinema is over, according to my agenda, people will have a 70% of chance to go back to to their home place. So basically, you have the time, okay, then we pick up a probability. So basically, technically, if it's in the morning, people will have probably more chances to go to the park than shopping. So also, we can also use just the time-dependent attendance, because we have some information about what you were asking before. Okay, if this person have to choose between a park, a shop, and some on-go places, we have the information of this attractivity. For instance, people will go more often in a park in the morning and than in on-go places. And then we can do we can have a probability of this every hour. So, for instance, okay, if this person if this person leaves his place at let's say 3 in the morning, he will be more likely to go in on-good places than in a park. But if it's in the morning at 6, he will be more likely to go in a park, and so on. And during the day, you have a lot of probability to go to the shopping places. So from this, what can we have? We can generate synthetic agenda. So basically, all these things, it's we can do as much as we can. Basically, we are limited by the computer. And then we can create for different group. So, for instance, the group 1 people don't have a lot of activities. They will have this kind of agenda. This agenda can also be spatialized, okay? And we can visit different kind of places. And from this, the idea, okay, so basically we can generate some agents. People will move in the city. They will do some activities in different places. It's rely on different kind of data. So we can use data from the field, data from Twitter, data from Facebook, etc. And then the idea is to do the model. So right now it's not totally over. It's just the work is still in progress. The work is in progress, but basically right now the next step is to mix all the different models. So we have the vector model, the environment model, and the host mobility model. And what we can have is, one second, the idea is to have something like this. So basically on the left, this is the one area of Bangkok. Here you have the population density that vary. Here you have the mosquito population, and here you have the human that moves according to the day, etc., to the time. So when they are red, that means that they are infected. So basically, the idea is to go on with this to fix all the problem of representativity, etc., and to try it on Bangkok and in Delhi maybe, but Delhi we need some better data, I guess. So from this, okay, I'll say thank you. But the main problem is that it's a bit complicated to. If you want to understand human mobility, it's a bit complicated. Every social issues are difficult to put into equations, etc. But thank you for your attention.